Hello, welcome back to the Barrett channel for a brand new walk and talk video today with myself, Ollie. A couple of months ago, I made a video outlining some of the very valuable lessons that I've learned while being here in China for 12 months. It's a common saying that travel is an education in its own, and I've never heard a truer statement spoken. I can advocate that quote 10 times over. My perspective now is I feel like an unrecognizable person compared to what I was 18 months ago before coming here. And I wouldn't say my personality's changed, it's more just my perspective has been opened up to a new realm of possibilities of how I can be manipulated, which is the one I'm going to be diving into today. That was one of the points that I labeled on that video, which I will link up here if you want to see that before coming back to this one, is that the lesson that I've learned about being susceptible to manipulation via the media, having not travelled, so I'm now less susceptible to be manipulated by the media, I would hope, but of course I'm still trying to learn that lesson. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment, as you already know, unless you've been living under a rock. The part I'm going to be focusing on today is trying to give what I see, give you my perspective on how the Hong Kong protests are being shown compared to the USA protests. So let me try and just give this a little bit of context. So the Hong Kong protests, the spark for that, the catalyst, was because of an extradition bill that was tried to be passed in Hong Kong to be able to extradite people back to mainland to be prosecuted. And this is what sparked the protests in Hong Kong. The bill was removed and the protests carried on. So now these protests are being labelled as pro-democracy protests. And that's what they are, that's what the narrative is on the Western media, that they're pro-democracy. So that was all well and good, right, when they were peaceful. But they quickly got violent. You know, I'm sure you've seen videos, it's absolutely not funny. You know, civilians, journalists reporters are being set on fire, you know, bricks thrown at them, Molotov cocktails thrown at the police, buildings being burned. It's, you know, anarchy, airports shut down, roads barricaded, it goes on. However, you'd have to be a fool to advocate for that type of behavior. However, on the Western media, Nancy Pelosi, she was, you know, recorded saying in public that it's a sight to behold. It's a beautiful sight to behold, she said. And just think about what she's saying for a moment. She's saying this type of behavior is a beautiful sight to behold in order to fight for democracy. Now let's spin this a little bit onto what's happening in the USA right now. So you must already know, but I will just outline it very quickly. George Floyd was a black man who was arrested in the US about a week ago for a fraudulent activity. He didn't retaliate to the police at all. He was calm. He wasn't trying to forcefully get himself out of the situation at all. An officer knelt on his neck for a total of 8 minutes, and he ended up dying later in a hospital. This sparked the USA protests that are happening at the moment, because there is an integral, systemic, deep racism in the American judicial system, which needs to be changed. So you're seeing nationwide and international protests in a fight for the freedom. You know, Black Lives Matter is the slogan for this change, for lack of a better word. And how did the president, Donald Trump, react to this? Twitter. He uses Twitter as his means to communicate with the world. He has labeled these as criminals. They're thugs, the people who are doing this. Low lives, he even said. And yeah, this fight for freedom of black people, black people's rights, black people to have the same rights as white people, right? To not be fearful of the police, even when they're doing nothing wrong. But yeah, they're labelled as criminals. Do you see the problem here? Do you see what they're trying to do? Now, this is blindingly obvious to me and to the people around me, but it obviously isn't so obvious to people that are not seeing it from both sides. Let's move on. Police brutality. So this is another thing that was pushed in the US media and, you know, the media of the Five Eyes nations, that the Hong Kong police during the protests over the last year have been so brutal towards its citizens. They've used unnecessary force against their citizens, which is just blatantly not true. If you look at the facts, you can see that that's not true. If you do a little bit more due diligence than simply reading the news articles from CNN and the New York Times, then you will absolutely see that that is not true. But it seems that a lot of people don't do that research, and therefore are extremely susceptible to be manipulated. In Hong Kong over the past year, hold on, let me get this back on my face here. One person has been shot. One person, one citizen. And I've watched the video. If I remember, I will try to link the video down below. I will link the video down below. You can watch. The police officer was getting surrounded and beaten by lots of people, lots of protesters. So I'm not surprised they forced him to use his weapon that he had on him. The guy didn't die who he shot, the guy later survived. Now, what I'm seeing so many videos, countless videos of police brutality being used in America right now. It's unbelievable. I'm seeing cars shoving crowds of protesters. I'm seeing police officers shoving people to the floor, who some of them are getting quite rowdy. However, some of them are not even protesting. They're not even protesting. They're literally, sorry, they're not even being violent is what I meant. They are protesting, but they're peacefully protesting, but they're getting shoved to the ground. There's been multiple people shot in shootouts, and obviously the amount of US citizens who bear arms obviously escalates this situation and makes it much more likely for shootouts, which is a topic for a whole different video. But there is a hell of a lot more force being used in the US by the US police. Even to, when was it? Yesterday? Oh wow, this one. Donald Trump, the president, he was going to have a picture by this church, and tear gas. There was protesters in the area, and tear gas was shot into the area to disperse the crowd with no warning. There's been multiple people who have lost their eyes due to rubber bullets from the police being shot into their eyes. The training says that they are supposed to shoot them against the ground first to make it a lot less powerful. But people are just, I've seen videos of people just getting rubber bullets shot at them. And it just goes to show that the Western media is pushing this narrative that the Hong Kong people are so oppressed from the dictatorial, oppressive regime from mainland China, and they are brave freedom fighters, but the people of America who are fighting for their freedoms are unfortunately labeled as thugs and criminals. It's something that you really need to think about, and you really need to try to stay aware of, because it's happening all the time. It's never going to stop happening, and it's a lesson that I'm really lucky to have started to learn from the age that I'm at, in my opinion anyway. It's going to be incredibly interesting to see how this unfolds, but I just hope that there's not too many hospitalities, fatalities, and you know, this on top of the COVID situation is just, I don't know when this movie is going to end, you know. I don't know when this movie is going to end, but it'd be great if you could follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter is down below, because that is where I will see anything that you do tweet to me. We do read the comments too, but I'm much more likely to see your tweet if you tweet me, because we do get a hell of a lot of comments, so it's sometimes hard to spot something of importance. Anyway, if you do like this video, it would be great if you can leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, we will see you in the next one. Take care for now.